Yeah, there were three things during, besides that new building, and that was a big building committee and a lot of people involved, a lot of coordination. But from an HR standpoint, what I was most proud of are three things. One was that pay-for-performance system that we talked about. The other thing was, when I took over, and we just had what was called just old dumb terminals, basic green screen computers back in those days. And we introduced PCs, laptops, but more importantly, we brought in Oracle. And with their whole database, ERP concept, we were able to transform folks calling us about every little thing to bring in all of the information about them at their desktop. So they could look up their leave balances, their employment history, salary history, everything that they ever wanted to know about themselves. So we shoved that out so people could see that and quit calling us. And then the third thing, we designed an intranet site so that every form, policy manual, book, statement, anything, right down to your W-2s that had to be filled out, they were on your desktop as well. So you could electronically fill the thing out and send it to us. So it kept my staff down to low numbers. We were very efficient utilizing technology. And when you did an analysis, a productivity analysis, typically organizations our size would have 11 to 15 HR people, and we had 6. So that was I was really proud of, that we used technology and leveraged that. And Watson Wyatt and several other firms came in to do outside audits, performance audits on us. Said we were one of the few public sector organizations in the whole country that kind of looked at that way. So that was I finished on a high note. I think the biggest accomplishment of my life, and I'm not being kind of funny about this and all, is that Margaret and I have been married for 31 years. She's the best thing that ever happened to me. So, and she's the third time I've been married, and I'm her first. And she asked me to marry her when we were at Firm College. So I had a couple of failed marriages, and the first one, it was kind of the typical got married too young, and I was in the Navy and all that stupid stuff. And then the other one was a rebound. She went with me to Florida and said she's going to stay, and I said, well, that's fine. I'm coming back to Virginia. So they were just kind of aberrations. But Margaret and I have stuck together for a long time, and she's my best friend. So I'm quite proud of that. What have I yet to do? Well, what have I yet to do? I'd like to take the last third of my life, and I think things are always divided in thirds. I was undergraduate in political science and minored in history. If you look back, everything's always in thirds. It's a third for it, and a third against it, and a third that don't know. So I think our life is lined up as a third where you really don't know, and a third where you're working, and then the third where you're trying to figure out what you just did. And I'd like to go out as just being known as a good person and help to other people. I've tried to help other people all my life. I love my horse, and I love being where I am right now. And I love riding with Marcy every day. I told Margaret and I told Marcy, don't take this the wrong way, but every morning when I get up, I feel pretty good. And when I top that hill right there and I see her over there riding, my comfort level goes up and everything's okay. So I just, enjoy yourself and enjoy the time that you have. And just be remembered that, you always did kind of the right thing. That's what I like to be remembered about as far as the ladies is concerned. Accomplishing something? Well, I would like to get Boogie healthy enough so that we could go back to showing and competing at some small level. I don't know whether we'll make that or not, but I'd like to eventually. What would I have done? differently? Well, I always tell people that, you know, I don't think you should be held too much responsible for the decisions you make in your 20s because you're just too stupid. But I should have stayed in the Navy. I had a real good thing going there because when I went in, I got tested and I scored real high on those aptitude tests. So of the 4 years I was in the Navy, I spent 2 years in electronics schools, and I was in an A6 squadron. And they offered me the opportunity to ship for 6. I'd have been in for 10. And they were going to send me to ODU, give me Old Dominion University in Norfolk, give me $10,000 as a shipping bonus. And then I'd have had 10 years in and on my way to being an officer. And I was, no, not me. I got out and, you know, kissed all that goodbye. I should have really stayed in because it was a good deal and I liked it. Well, what happened, I went 1 year to Virginia Tech, and in 1966 when I graduated, then in 67 the draft was really raging, and Johnson was sending men to Vietnam and by droves. So the local draft board would determine what your overall grade point average would be in order to maintain your student deferment. And I needed a 2.5, and I came out with a 2.3. So my 2S deferment flipped to 1A just like that. So when I got my, and then the schools had to mail grades to you and the draft board. So the day I got those grades, and it's all posted, what it had to be, I went straight to Roanoke and enlisted in the Navy. I went because you've got to beat getting that notice. In other words, if you got that letter in the mail to show up, you were in the Army. So I beat that 1A, your mind's notice by going and joining the Navy. I worked for a short period of time in Richmond and just knew that I wasn't going to get anywhere. And I had the full GI Bill available to me, which was, that was worth everything to Margaret and me especially, because it paid for my entire undergraduate degree and my master's degree. Plus, and then I had scholarships. So I viewed going back to school as a full-time job. I mean, I worked over 40 hours a week and made A's the whole time. I made 1 A- in graduate school because that was my job. And so then, well, the first house Margaret and I got, it was for the GI Bill also. So I got a lot of the benefits for being in the Navy like that. Well, how has society changed, and how have we dealt with it? That's an awful good question, and it's not a simple one to answer. I was raised by a very strong mother in a home with Daddy and my 2 brothers. So it was all guys. And she was a very strong woman, and she raised us to always know that everybody puts their pants on one leg at a time. So she raised us to not only, you know, deal with executive level people, but also folks in the mailroom. And to give you an example, she had a lady that would come over and help her on Saturdays to clean the house and all. And this was an African-American lady, and she brought her little boy. Now this is in 1952, 53, 54, right? And he and I played out in the backyard. She sat at our kitchen table and ate lunch. So I was introduced to that at a very young age and never had a problem with any of that because that's the way we were raised. So you've seen the minorities and women grow in their relevance and their importance in society. And I've always been a real champion of women's rights. My assistant director that I hired was a female right out of college with an economics degree, because I knew that when we were going to introduce this pay-for-performance system and start measuring our salaries against the private sector, I didn't have an economics degree. I have a political degree and a history degree, an administrative degree. But she had that economics degree and was really good with technology. So we made a great fit. Now, I was one of the first, that place was dominated by white males. I was one of the first ones to have a female assistant director in there. And then when I retired, I really pushed for them to make her the director, but they hired a white male over her. I didn't like that at all. So it's been a pretty easy adaptation, and Margaret's got a PhD, so she's not a wallflower. It's been interesting to see technology change over time. I forget what statistic it was of how much change has occurred in 10 years. There was more change in 10 years than the past 50 or something like that. But it's changed our life. And I'll give you a specific example, because I really like technology, and we introduced that technology where I work. Years ago, Margaret and I first got married. It's a funny little story. Every Sunday night, writing out the checks, paying the bills. You know, collect them all week long, turn them out, register, whole bit. The Bank of America would send us the statement. Sunday night, get this all lined out, balancing up your checkbook, going against that statement. Margaret always held her breath to make sure that that thing came out right to the cent. She said she never could just relax until that was all done. And I told her that everything's fine now, because she would have to write checks and sometimes forget to put the amounts in the register and all. So every Sunday night was this ritual of check balancing, writing checks and balancing. Now, everything pay online, it's instantly balanced. I don't write a check except for taxes and insurance anymore. So, you know, that's how much that has changed, and I think changed your life in a positive manner. I had an old 286 PC one time, a 286, and I mean, nobody probably y'all would remember 286s. And so now you know you got a laptop that has more computer power in it, a Sony Vaio, than John Glenn, and they were just celebrating John Glenn going around the earth this past week. So you know, I think it's great, and I love my smartphone. And Margaret recently when she went back home, she went and got a Kindle because she loves reading books, and so she's downloading books and reading on a Kindle now. So we try to stay technologically up to speed, because if you don't, it's going to age you quicker if you don't. Retirement has changed my life in a very positive manner. I'll never forget last year when my birthday came around, and Marianne said that I looked 10 years younger 1 month after I'd been here. And so you just don't have all that kind of stress of worrying about what you're going to have to do, and Sunday night worried about the Monday week's meetings and being responsible for somebody else all the time. Because my management style was everybody else took all the credit, but I took all the blame, and I was always the one in between everybody else. When I was getting ready to retire, a guy came up to me one day, one of our employees, and he said, "Chester, I hate to see you go, because you're the only thing between us and them." So not having that level of responsibility is great. And you know, you just kind of get up and plan your day. And Margaret, when she was out here, I told her, I said, she was talking about we were going to have a busy day, and I said, no, we will never ever have another busy day. We have full days of the things we want to do, but it's never a busy day. My biggest joy in my life. Well, I don't want to sound too melodramatic, but again, it just goes back to the relationship that Margaret and I have had. And it's not, you know, we don't have any children, and she has allowed me the freedom to do the things that I wanted to do. For example, I taught scuba diving for a long time. I raced sailboats for a long time. I had a motorcycle for a long time, and now I've got Boogie. And Margaret, at the time, she would build ship models, and she's built airplane models, and she reads, and she does a lot of her own stuff. So we would do our own individual kind of things, and then at the end of the day or end of the week and all, we would come back together and compare notes and, have happy hour and talk. We would never always write with each other all the time. Now, it's a little different because 4 years, this is her 4th year, I encouraged her to get off that sofa and get outdoors and take up golf. And she has, and she's really turned into a good little golfer. And she loves being outside in the fresh air. And so that is the one thing that we really enjoy together, because I'll drive a golf cart and she plays golf. I don't know a lot about golf, but I try to help her with the positioning and aiming and all that kind of stuff. So that's the one thing we do together well. And it's really a lot of fun to be together doing that. I think getting married today is one of the most difficult periods in time. I would hate to be someone coming out of college now looking for that first job. I don't think they're going to have those opportunities that we had as such. But the advice that I would give anybody now, and it's what I think after a couple of failed marriages but are very successful now, it comes down a lot to the finances. And the way Margaret and I did this, because she had her career and I had mine, is I had my money, she had her money, and every 6 months or so we would negotiate how much we would contribute to the house account. And the house account paid for all of the bills and the mortgages and this and that and the other, and then we made sure there was enough left over to go into a savings account. But she had enough money to do her thing, I had enough money to do what I wanted to do, and there was never a commingling of that money, and we still do that today. I mean, she's got her VRS retirement and I've got mine, and we've got the house account, and she now has to manage that since I'm out here. She had to take that over. I'd managed that all along, and that's not been a bad thing either, because I was managing it and she didn't know. She put together the budget, and then I executed the budget. So she knew where it was going, but not like how it would get there. And when I set up all of those electronic payments with Bank of America. So when I came out here, I had to teach her, and she learned how to do that, and she's done a real good job with it. So now it's a little role reversed. I'm putting together the budgets, and she's doing the execution. So I think somehow or another, if you can manage that money and not commingle it, so that you'll always have, this is mine, and that's yours, and what you've done, and then this is ours.